They say betrayal never comes from enemies, and now I know that's true, because mine came from the people who gave me life. I stood in the boardroom I built with my own hands. My logo was etched on the glass door. My mission printed on every brochure, every product, every pitch. But as I opened the door that morning, something was different. People avoided my eyes. The usual greetings felt forced. A folder sat on the table, one I never authorized, never signed. And at the head of the table, my sister, in my chair, wearing the smile of someone who had just stolen everything. My name is Darren. I'm 32, single, and up until recently, I was the founder and CEO of one of the fastest growing eco-packaging companies on the East Coast. I built Greencore from nothing. No loans, no investors, just me, my garage, a secondhand printer, and a vision. I worked 16-hour days, packed orders with blistered hands, slept next to stacks of recycled cardboard, missed birthdays, skipped holidays, all for the dream of creating something real, something that mattered. My parents, Joanne and Edward, were always supportive in their own way. Not emotionally, not financially, but with nods, with polite smiles. My father called it Darren's Little Green Project. My sister Camille was their golden child, Ivy League, MBA, rode the corporate wave from bank to bank with high heels and higher ambition. She never lifted a finger for Greencore, but my parents always said she was the smart one. I didn't care. I wasn't building this for them. I was building it for me. I picked up the folder, still not quite registering what I was seeing. Greencore Executive Restructure Proposal. Underneath it, effective immediately, Camille Dawson appointed as Chief Executive Officer. Darren Dawson reassigned as Head of Product Innovation. I looked up. Camille gave me a smirk that felt like a knife dipped in honey. Surprise, she said, as if this was a birthday party. How? How could this happen? How could I be removed from the company I built? The answer started 3 years ago. Back when Greencore was barely breaking even, I brought my parents in for dinner. I needed help, not money, just someone to believe in me. My father grilled me for hours. How much are you selling per unit? What's your margin? Do you even know what scale looks like? My mom barely looked up from her wine, but they agreed to help under one condition. They wanted equity. I was tired, desperate, and foolish, so I gave them 30%, split evenly between them. I should have seen it then. My parents didn't believe in me. They believed in control. They didn't see Greencore as mine. They saw it as theirs eventually. But in the early days, it felt like a blessing. They stayed out of operation. I grew the company from a few clients to hundreds. By year 3, we had 20 employees, 5-figure contracts, and real traction. That's when the cracks started showing. Camille started visiting the office, giving unsolicited advice, rewriting sales pitches, suggesting minor changes to how I ran things. I kept telling myself it was fine, until one day, I overheard her in the break room. Darren's got the vision, sure, but he doesn't know how to scale. He's too emotionally attached. He's stalling growth. And the person she said it to? My mother. I stood there, reading the document over and over. How? I whispered. You can't do this. Camille leaned back, her heels crossed on my desk. Oh, but I can. Technically, you're outvoted. My parents walked in behind her, their eyes avoiding mine. I'm sorry, sweetheart, my mother said, but this is best for the company. That was the moment I realized they never saw me as a leader. Not once. I was just the mule who pulled the cart until someone smarter could steer. And in their eyes, that person was Camille. It started with strange calendar invites I wasn't included on, meetings between Camille and our investors, legal reviews, budget audits I didn't request. I confronted her once. She smiled and said, just doing what's best for Greencore. You'll thank me later. She had access to everything because my parents gave her voting rights. I owned 40%. They owned 30%. And when they gave Camille their proxy, I was out. I walked out of the office that day, numb. The company I poured my soul into, hijacked in a single morning. My name was still on the building, but not in any of the emails. My face was still on the website, but not in the meetings. My heart beat in every product we shipped, but my opinion no longer mattered. I spent the next 2 weeks in my apartment. Lights off, phone off, spirit shattered. I kept asking myself, how could they do this? Why didn't I see it coming? But the truth was, I had seen it. I just didn't want to believe the people who raised me would ever be capable of stealing my life's work. Then one morning, I opened an old box. Inside were prototypes, sketches, notes I scribbled at 3 a.m. when I was dreaming big and afraid of nothing. And I realized something. They may have taken Greencore, but they didn't take me, and they didn't take my mind. That's when the idea hit. If they thought they could steal my company and run it better without me, then they'd better be ready, because I was going to build something new, from scratch, again. But this time, I wouldn't need them. This time, I'd crush them. There's something about being betrayed that sharpens your focus. You stop wasting energy justifying people's behavior. You start seeing clearly. And what I saw now was this. They didn't take Greencore because I was failing. They took it because I was winning. Camille didn't want to build her own legacy. She wanted to hijack mine. And if I was going to fight back, I needed to know exactly what I was up against. It started in the most unglamorous way. Me in my kitchen, drinking stale coffee at 5:45 a.m., staring at a blank whiteboard. All I wrote was one word: rebuild. I didn't need office space. I didn't need venture capital. I needed three things: a better idea, a tighter execution, and people I could trust. I called Mia first. Mia was my former operations manager. She quit Green Corps a month after Camille took over. No explanation, just a polite resignation letter and a tearful goodbye hug. I now knew why. Darren, she answered. I have a question, I said. You ever wanted to burn it all down and start over? She was silent for a beat, then said, where do we begin? While Mia and I started brainstorming the new company, I kept a distant eye on Green Corps. I had no access to the systems anymore, but my industry contacts still talked, and what they told me was revealing. Clients were leaving, slowly but surely. Camille had overhauled everything: pricing, packaging, even our mission statement. She wasn't selling eco-solutions. She was selling corporate sustainability partnerships. It was all buzzwords and gloss, none of the soul. The soul that came from years of sleeping on a concrete floor to save warehouse rent. The soul she never had. I drove 2 hours to meet with one of our biggest former suppliers, Jim Talbot. He was a blunt man with hands like sandpaper and a mouth like a buzzsaw. Darren, he said, arms folded, didn't expect to see you. I just wanted to check in, see how things were with Green Corps. He snorted. They dropped us last week. Why? They wanted cheaper alternative. Plastic blends, not fully compostable anymore. That hit me like a punch in the chest. We promised every customer 100% compostable packaging. That was the core of Green Corps. She was gutting it. Slowly, quietly, piece by piece. It wasn't sabotage, not legally, but morally. Camille was killing my dream in real time, and I wasn't gonna just watch. If they wanted to bury me, they'd have to dig a lot deeper. I cleaned out the garage, just like old times. I set up a foldable table, a whiteboard, and a cheap laser printer. And I started sketching out the new vision. Mia brought in a former designer friend who'd worked on biodegradable film tech. We didn't want to revive Green Corps. We wanted to evolve it. Our new project was called True Cycle. Where Green Corps stopped at compostable, True Cycle would go circular. Full reuse, zero waste, blockchain verified supply transparency. It wasn't just packaging, it was proof. And in that proof was trust. The very thing my family destroyed. And yet, something still didn't sit right with me. Camille's rise hadn't been sudden. It had been planned. I just hadn't seen the signs before. So I started digging, and what I found made my stomach twist. Camille had been consulting for a packaging competitor months before my ousting, a company called Nexapack. Publicly, she denied ties, but through an old college friend who owed me a favor, I got access to a private investor PDF. Guess whose name was listed under strategic partners and growth advisors? Camille Dawson. She didn't just want Green Corps. She wanted to gut it and then merge it into Nexapack once I was out of the way. That wasn't just betrayal. That was theft. I asked to meet my parents. Neutral ground, a fancy lunch spot downtown. They came. My mother wore pearls. My father pretended to be too busy for small talk. I laid the paper in front of them. Nexapack. Camille. Proof. They didn't even blink. My father sipped his scotch. That's called strategy, Darren. It's how the real world works. My mother added, we did what was best for everyone. Best for who? I snapped. You gave her my company just so she could sell it off. My father leaned in, cold. You were always too soft, too emotional. That company wasn't going to survive on dreams. I sat there stunned. They didn't regret it. They were proud. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about a hostile takeover. This was about erasure. They wanted my company, my name, my vision, wiped clean, replaced with their version, their legacy. But what they failed to understand was that I thrive in silence. I thrive when no one's watching. I built once, and I could build again. Stronger, smarter, with purpose. It took 6 weeks of nonstop work. But True Cycle was born. No press, no fanfare. Just a quiet website drop, a soft email campaign to old clients, and a promise. We don't just reduce waste, we end it for good. Mia called it poetic. I called it payback in progress. I had my evidence, I had my vision, and now I had my motivation. They thought they could take what I built and erase my name from it, but they forgot something. I'm not just a founder, I'm a creator, and creators don't need permission, they just need a reason. And now, I had the best reason of all, revenge. The worst part of betrayal isn't the act itself. It's the moment you realize the people who betrayed you don't even feel guilty. That cold, empty space where love should have been. My parents invited me to dinner. Or rather, summoned me like a court summons. The restaurant was loud, bright, filled with people celebrating ordinary things. But at our table, silence screamed. Camille was there, wearing that same smug smile. My mother's eyes never met mine. My father played with his wine glass. Darren, my father began, voice sharp, we need to talk about your new venture. I leaned forward. You mean True Cycle? The company I started after you pushed me out? Camille laughed, low and cold. We just think you're making a mistake. You're biting off more than you can chew. I wanted to shout, to slam my fist on the table, but I kept my voice steady. This is my life, and I'm not going to let you erase it. My mother sighed. You're being naive. You think you can just rebuild overnight without our support? That support, I said, was a leash, and I'm free now. Camille leaned in, eyes blazing. You'll regret this, Darren. You don't know who you're messing with. I wanted to say so much more, to tell them how deeply they'd wounded me, how much I'd lost. But I kept my composure, because this was just the beginning. Later that night, I caught Camille leaving my old office. You can't just take over my company, I said, voice low. She turned, eyes cold. I did take it, and I'm not giving it back. You're running it into the ground, she smiled. Better to burn than to rot. Her words hit harder than any punch. That night, alone in my apartment, the weight of it all crashed down. The betrayal, the loss, the isolation. I called my best friend Marcus. Darren, you sound broken. I'm not, I said. I'm just tired. He didn't buy it. No one builds an empire on tiredness. The next week, letters arrived. Legal threats from Camille's lawyers, demanding I cease and desist from using any Green Core intellectual property, trying to shut down TrueCycle before it even launched. They wanted to crush me, erase me, make me disappear. But that only made me fight harder. Pain has a way of breaking you, but pain can also rebuild you. After everything, the betrayal, the loss, the isolation, I realized one truth. The only person who could save me was me. I woke up early, sat at my desk, and opened a fresh notebook. No distraction, no excuses, just a plan. I knew Camille's lawyers were trying to suffocate TrueCycle, but they didn't know my lawyer or my team. I hired the best legal counsel specializing in intellectual property and corporate law. We combed through every document, every contract, every email. Mia sat across from me, fierce and focused. We can prove, she said, that TrueCycle's technology and IP are completely original. The lawyers nodded. This will be a long fight, one said, but it's winnable. While the legal battle raged, I turned to my secret weapon, truth. One by one, I contacted everyone Green Core had ever worked with. I showed them TrueCycle's innovation, our commitment to genuine sustainability, and quietly, I began to win them back. Camille thought she could erase me, but she forgot one thing. You can't erase someone's soul. I decided to play their game. If Camille wanted to play dirty, so would I. I started gathering evidence of her backdoor deals with Nexapack. Emails, phone records, whispers from inside the industry. It was a gamble, but one I was willing to take. The final act wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. The day of the hearing, the air was thick with anticipation. Camille sat across the room, her usual confident mask cracked just slightly. My lawyers presented the evidence. The backdoor deals, the violation of fiduciary duties, the breaches of contract. I watched as the judge's expression hardened. For the first time in years, I felt seen, heard, believed. The judge ruled in my favor. Camille was stripped of her CEO title. The company returned to the rightful leadership of its founder. But victory wasn't a celebration. It was a lesson. After the verdict, I confronted my parents one last time. I didn't need your permission to build something real. My mother's eyes were cold. My father said, you were too soft. I shook my head. Strength isn't control, it's resilient. In the end, I didn't just reclaim a company. I reclaimed myself. TrueCycle is now thriving. More than that, it's honest, built not just on profits, but on purpose. Sometimes the people closest to you can become your greatest obstacle. But when you refuse to be broken, when you decide to rise, that's when everything changes. And that's how I crushed them.